We're going to do another one of those before and after photos. This one's got a little bit of everything in it, okay? It's got some Lightroom, it's got some Photoshop work, and it's got some plugin work inside of it. So it kind of covers the gamut. This is a travel photo I took while in Paris, and I kind of just, it had an interesting perspective on, I thought, the Eiffel Tower. And before you say, it's crooked, I know it's crooked. That's the way I took it. So anyway, we're going to go ahead and get started here. I'm using Lightroom 4 because I like Lightroom. I like Lightroom 4. Honestly, we're going to be there soon enough anyway. You might as well just get used to it. And I think the controls for editing are just superior to what we have now. Okay, so first off, let's take a look. So the sky is almost blown out. So that's the first thing I'm going to do here. I could pull back exposure. And that's kind of like the heavy hitter. That's gonna darken everything. And I will pull it back a little bit, but I'm really gonna come back over here to highlights. You can see here how I can control that sky a little bit better, and I can leave everything else intact here. So I'm gonna kind of pull back because I do want to bring out just a little bit. I don't want it to be totally blown out. I want to bring back a little bit of detail back in there. And I might bring my exposure back up a little bit here. Okay, so we got highlights. Now the opposite, which is shadows, I'm gonna bring those up. And I want to kind of pull out some detail inside of these dark areas. We're going to leave whites alone. We won't really have too much to do. I might crank them up a little bit. And then blacks, I'll bring that down just to add a little bit of contrast here. So if I hit the backslash key, you could see the before and after. You could see where we were and where we are now. Next thing I'm going to do is increase clarity. And if you didn't know this, clarity works a lot better inside of Lightroom 4. It looks a lot better. It affects the photo in some different ways. So it's definitely worth using the clarity over here. And the thing that I can't do is I can't add extra clarity, which I think I kind of want to do in some areas over here. So I'm going to grab the adjustment brush. I'm going to bring up the clarity slider to about 50. And I'm just going to, and I'll zoom in for you here. I'm just going to paint right on any areas where I want to add more clarity. So what it's doing is it's building, because clarity has that detail type of an effect. It almost looks like it's sharpening, but it's not really sharpening. But it's going to build up the effect in whatever area that I paint, in addition to the clarity that I added back here in the basic panel. So it's a way to kind of get clarity times 2. You can add it with the adjustment brush. All right, so we're looking pretty good here. Next thing I might do is go grab my crop tool, and I am going to rotate this just a little bit. Like so. I know I'm not going to be able to get that little light that's hanging down out. I don't like it on the edge there. I don't mind the other ones, but I don't like this one kind of just poking through the edge there. So we're going to have to take care of that in Photoshop. Okay, so at this point, I'm done. So let's go ahead, Command or Control E, and we're going to jump over into Photoshop. And this is where I'll start to do, I know, like, if you look at the little spots and things here, some of the little cleanup jobs that we have, I know Lightroom has a spot removal tool for this stuff. To me, it's just easier to do in Photoshop. Okay, so if I know that I have a lot of them, I'm going to be coming over to Photoshop anyway. I just as soon get that job done over here. Okay, and there's a lot of them you can see. I mean, people might call this sensor dust. People might say I have a dirty sensor. I really think they're UFOs. Okay, because there's no way my sensor could really be that dirty. So they've got to be UFOs or birds. It's one of the two. Oh gosh, it's really bad too. Now some of them, as you're going to see later, are some little raindrops because it was raining, as you can see, and I did not protect my camera as well as I should have. We'll get rid of that one. I'm not going to go too crazy here, or the video is going to take 15 minutes of me. You guys are just going to go crazy watching me just remove spots. But I'm just going to get rid of distractions. I have no idea what this stuff is. It looks really gross, though. A cigarette, but that's nice. Just get rid of any of that little junk that's around here. And any just the dark stuff. I know some of it's rocks and whatnot, and they're not bad. It's just kind of a little bit distracting. All right, so that's good enough for now. You get the idea. Go in here and clean up. I'll get rid of this little thing over here, too. We've got this over here. Best way to get rid of that, I would probably come over here and let's give her a try. We'll take the lasso tool and I'll hit the delete key. This will bring up content aware scale or content aware fill. We'll see how it does. That's not too bad. I might come over here with my clone stamp tool, and because if I kind of back out of it, my guess is it's going to look like there's a little bit of a smudge over there. So I might come over there with my my clone stamp tool and just sample over here. That really didn't do that much better, did it? Let's try this again. Maybe sample over here in a brighter area and kind of paint over some of these spots here. We'll see if we can make that work. If not, we can always come back later and fix it too if we notice it becomes a problem. Okay? All right, so let's back out. All right, so that takes care of a lot of the Photoshop type stuff that I would do. Just kind of clean up, removing distractions, different things like that. That's a majority of the Photoshop work that I would do to this. Now, the next thing is just kind of finishing touches. Okay, the first thing I would do, I'll come over here to it's plugins, and I know some of you say you don't have plugins and why not use them from whatever. This is the way I do it. Okay, you can do some of these things in Photoshop, you can do some of these things in Lightroom. It's just these are the way. This is the way that I choose to do it because the plugin companies just pay me a humongous check every year. You know, I'm kidding. Okay, so I've got a little recipe here. It's called Detail plus Vignette, and if you look at it, it's got the lens vignette setting. I'm using Color Effects Pro 4. It's got the lens vignetting setting, okay, which I like. And then it's also got what they call the detail extractor. Okay, so you can see my settings here. And this just kind of, take a look at when I compare. That's before, that's after. See what it does to the sky? It brings out all this detail in the sky, brings out some of those clouds, brings out some detail up front here. So it's just, to me, it's a recipe that I go to quite often for a lot of my photos here. We kind of ruined this area over here. We might have to go back and redo that later. But at this point, I'm pretty happy with it. Again, you can see my settings here. Okay. The detail extractor is the biggest part. If I turn that off, you'll see it changes quite dramatically. It even brings out some of the shadow detail. All right. So we'll click OK. That takes care of that one. The next thing that I would do is probably do some sharpening here. As soon as this is done, I'll probably do some sharpening here. You could, of course, use Unsharp Mask inside of Photoshop. As you can imagine, since I've already got a million plugins installed, I really like Nik software, as you can see. So I'm going to go to Sharpener Pro, and we'll kind of bring the window in so you can actually see what's going on in here. Okay. And you can see I got my output sharpening strength up to about 118, 120%. I love structure. Structure adds just a little bit of that extra detail in there. Local contrast. You can kind of see a little bit of what it does with and without. Take a look at structure, though. You'll see if I pull structure back and then I add it back in here, comes out really nice too. So we're going to go ahead and click OK there. If I were sharpening this with Unsharp Mask, I'd use a very, very high setting because there's a lot of detail in here and there's a lot that we can get away with when it comes to sharpening. So if I were using Unsharp Mask, I'd probably use a setting around 175%. As for the radius goes, I'd probably use about 1.3, 1.4, something like that. All right, so we're kind of butchered this whole area. I'm going to take my spot healing brush with content aware turned on and see if we can just kind of tone it down a little bit. Probably be better off to go back and start from scratch, but I kind of butchered that. Kind of keep it in mind, if I were to redo this one, I might go back and fix that a little bit. All right, so we got our sharpening done. We can zoom in here. Now, that's the difference. Let's take a look. That's before sharpening. That's after sharpening. Okay, and by the way, Unsharp Mask will get you very close. It doesn't have structure. And that's why I like the Nik software, because I love that structure tool. Unsharp Mask doesn't have that, so it still will get you a very sharp image. You'll get a lot of this detail, especially the detail on the ground. It'll pull out just fine. But what it does to the clouds and what it does to this column over here, that's just kind of why I like Sharpener Pro. I got all kinds of spots on here. This is probably from raindrops and whatnot on my sensor because I really did not protect it or protect my lens like I should have. So I could go through here and clean it up. Honestly, it'll take a long time. The best way to do this is just for me to zoom back out and you won't see those spots as bad anymore. And then the last thing I would do here is, it's still a color photo, even though it looks almost black and white, but I am going to convert it to a black and white. And obviously the industry standard for that is the Silver Effects Pro. I know you would think that Nik software is sponsoring this video, but I promise you they are not. And usually what I do here is I'll kind of just click through a lot of the presets and just see what I think here. So I'm kind of digging. Let's see, push process. low key, kind of like push process. Let's see. I'm going to try, you know what? I might just go with neutral, and I might come in here, increase the brightness and increase the contrast a little bit. Maybe pull that back. Just increase the brightness and contrast here. I'm not going to really add that much more structure because we've already added quite a bit at this point. We've already sharpened it, and we've added that whole structure setting. The last thing I would do here is I always like their vignettes. So I would come down here and maybe do black frame. I like rectangle. I don't really care for the circle. I always like my vignettes to kind of be almost rectangular. And come over here. Bring that in. We can compare before, after. Just kind of darken up those edges a little bit. And I will click OK. And so now we have our black and white version of the photo. You can leave it as color if you want. To me, that color back there wasn't doing anything. I just figured let's get rid of all of it altogether. And at this point, all we have to do, we want to get back over to Lightroom. All we have to do, hit File, Save. I don't have to save as. I don't have to change anything. I don't have to change a location or a name or anything like that. I just have to hit File, Save. I can close it. And then I can hop back over here into Lightroom, and you'll see right next to the original, here's the original raw file. And I'm going to hit reset on it so that we get right back to our original settings. So there's the original raw file. Let's get the screen a little bit bigger here. I'll hit the right arrow key, and there is our final image. Okay. And of course, you can tweak things here if you want to. You can come up here if you think maybe it's a little too bright. If you want to work on a little bit, maybe add a little bit more of a vignette, you could always do that right here inside of Lightroom to kind of finish things off. Because you're already in Lightroom, you might as well, instead of hopping back to Photoshop to add a vignette. I only did it because we were there, but you can always come over here into Lightroom and do these things too. Okay, well folks, hope you enjoyed the before and after image here. My name is Matt Kloskowski, and I'll talk to you again soon.